Hello there everyone, this is Ventodeus here, and today I'm going to be doing part 3 of What If Deku Became Buddha of Records of Ragnarok. So in this part we're going to be starting it off at where I last left it off the last week before. So yeah, we're going to start as Deku gets to 1A and sees everyone in the room, also noticing Bakugo, who is fighting with Ida about how having his feet on the tables was wrong. But before anything could happen, Aizawa arrives and reveals himself to the class as their homeroom teachers. He didn't waste any time and hands out PE clothings to the students and leads them to the PE grounds. Aizawa explains to the class while participating in a quirk apprehensive test that will test their quirks since they were not able to use their quirks in middle school. Aizawa uses Bakugo as an example. Bakugo only threw about 64 meters in middle school, but after using his quirk, Bakugo proceeds to throw over 700 meters. At first, the students are excited to compete in this competition, but Aizawa quickly shuts them down and announces that the student who ranks last in total points will be deemed hopeless and immediately expelled. The class is shocked by the announcements, and Ochako Uraraka declares that the rule is unfair. Aizawa replies that the world is unfair and it's a hero's job to combat that unfairness. This is one thing I forgot to mention. For One For All was given to Bakugo. The reason was because All Might wanted a powerful successor with a quirk to be given One For All, since almost every One For All user had a quirk that could be inherited by the user of One For All, as we all seen in the My Hero Academia series. So then we see it was Deku's turn to do the pitch, as Izuku looked at Aizawa and said, "So I just have to get a higher score than everyone else. Okay." But Deku then threw the ball basically out of the universe. When I mean out of the universe, it's basically to outer space, where the meter or the tracker that was on the ball was no longer able to find it. So it was basically infinite. Aizawa looked at him and wondered, what is this kid's quirk? Aizawa then looks at Izuku's name through the tablet, because in his name it says he has no quirk. But after everyone goes, Aizawa says to everyone is fine, no one is going to get expelled from UA. But then Bakugo is enraged about this random ass kid having a higher score than him, as Deku disappears from everyone's view and appearing next to the door of UA and yells Bakugo's name. "Well, it seems like you haven't changed your attitude, even though I disappeared for months back in middle school. Remember, Bakugo? Or should I say Kachan?" As Deku left the test, leaving Aizawa to wonder if he had a super strength quirk or super speed quirk. But we then see Bakugo's reaction as he said, "Deku! So that's who you are. So if you finally decided to show up, you worthless, quirkless loser." But then he holds back his words, thinking, wait, but he has a quirk. What? But then leaving these thoughts aside, Aizawa stops him from saying anything and dismisses the class. The next day, 1A goes through a normal day of class until they reach their hero basic training classes. All Might leads the class to a combat training where they will all get a chance to wear their hero costumes for the first time. After the class changes into their costume, but Deku was the only one wearing the clothing he would normally wear at his house. And the clothing he was normally wear is the one you guys see on the thumbnail, which made everyone wonder, who exactly does Deku think he is? He's not the #1 hero, so he shouldn't be doing that. But Deku didn't care, as no one was planning on getting close to him. They all gather at training ground B, the very same training area where the practical test for the entrance exam was held. All Might goes through the rules. The class will be broken into teams of 12, half heroes and half villains. Villains will guard a nuclear weapon that they intend on deploying, and the heroes must stop their plan. If the heroes capture the villains or reach the nuclear core before time runs out, they win. If the villains manage to keep the nuclear core for the whole time, or they capture the heroes, they win. The team are drawn from lots. All Might announces that Team A, Isuku and Uraraka, will face Team D, Bakugo and Ida. As Deku looked at his partner and just said, "Well, this will be interesting." As All Might then said, "Well, are you marked? Get set, go." As Bakugo and Ida were already at their positions. Bakugo then asks if he knows anything about that Isuku Midoriya, as he regretted even saying that name, even though he still believed Deku was still quirkless. As Ida then says, "No, I don't know anything about that kid. He is just a quirkless. He is just a hero, as we all know. He did something most of us couldn't do at the entrance exam, and that was save Uraraka. And that was save Uraraka from getting hit by the giant robot. And yes, the events still went the same, but Deku didn't save Uraraka. Didn't know Uraraka was under a rock. He just destroyed the giant robot for his own amusement of power testing. And yes, Deku's not power hungry. He's just wanting to test the limit of his strength. So then we see Isuku and Uraraka reaching the tower. They were close to the floors, as Ida was left to guard the nuclear weapon, and Isuku told Uraraka to go this way. He told her to take a left because that will take her straight to the nuclear weapon. As Bakugo finally catches up to Isuku and questions why won't he explain his quirk to him. But Isuku then looks at him and said, "I don't have a reason. Nobody needs to know who or what gave me this power, or if I unlocked it." As he warns Isuku not to underestimate him, and reveals that his gauntlets on his hero costume stores his nitro sweat. When enough of it builds up, he can create a massive explosion. But then All Might warns Bakugo not to use the attack, but he does so anyway, and blasts through the far wall of the building, attacking Isuku and hitting him on the back, just like he did on the anime. But Deku just turned around after the smoke cleared and said, "Oh wow, come on, my favorite shirt." Then we go to Ida and Uraraka. Ida and Uraraka felt the aftershock of the blast. Uraraka used the moment to make herself float towards the weapon, but Ida's speed allows him to keep it from her. Without anything to use as a weapon, Uraraka is a step behind Ida, who can easily use his speed to keep the weapon from her. Meanwhile, All Might decides to warn Bakugo not to use that attack again because he's his successor. But then he decided not to do anything about it. As this forces Bakugo then realizes that nothing is forcing him to do it. As Isuku then looks at Bakugo and said, "My turn." Isuku grabbed Bakugo's gauntlet and broke it just by squishing his hand. But in a close quarter, Bakugo moved his hand away and saw that his gauntlet was broken. And All Might said, "This Isuku Midoriya is really this strong. But what happened to the kid that I spoke to once?" Then we see Bakugo, who then grabs Isuku after he saw that he broke one of his costume's arms. But then Bakugo saw that he couldn't lift Isuku from the ground or throw him. As Isuku said, "Alright, my turn." He lifted his entire arm and then slammed it back to the ground as Bakugo's whole body left a crater on the floor. Bakugo on the floor then demands that Isuku explains to him what happened to him. But this irritates Deku, whose then expression changes, and saw that he was no longer calm but more of annoyed. As Isuku then said, "Okay, you want to taste of my quirk? As in his head, he says, it's not really a quirk. This is power I shouldn't be using on normal people. But he then punches Bakugo in the gut, breaking through the entire building straight to the floor. Not sending him to be unconscious, but to get to the point where he wasn't gonna get up from the floor. As Bakugo is shocked to learn that Izuku's punch didn't leave him broken or anything. He was just there on the last floor. As Izuku went to the top of the building and saw Uraraka was hugging the nuclear weapon, as Izuku then said, okay. As he appeared next to her and disappeared from Ida's view and appeared outside, as All Might said, or Izuku Midoriya's group wins, as they all leave. Everything goes according to the anime with everyone else, but then it continues. This is the end of the day. The exercises between Team A and Team D have been completed, and this is after everything went to the anime. And All Might declares Izuku and Uraraka as the winners. But then All Might decides to tell his successor, Bakugo, that whether he won or lost, he must take a look back and reflect on the experience and move on with life. But Bakugo couldn't do that. He just left the room and went back to the dormitories. Back in the moderator, All Might declares Ida the MVP of the exercise and asks the class why they might think that. Momo, one of the 4 students to be admitted to UA based on recommendation, answers the question. She says that Bakugo and Izuku using large range attacks in an indoor area were too foolish. She also noted Uraraka let her guard down too early, and her final improvised attack was too reckless. As Izuku then said, "What do you mean that I did foolish attack? Oh, I did. Oh," as he said, "Oh yeah, I did left a crater. I did make a hole through the entire building. So that's okay." As we then see them all later, Izuku later that day returns to class as he is met by compliments from his classmates. But Izuku didn't really care. But he notices that Bakugo isn't among them. Uraraka tells Izuku that Bakugo has already left, and Izuku leaves to find him just to see his expression. He then finds Bakugo just outside the school and decides to tell him the truth, that he obtained his quirk from someone else and had not been lying to Bakugo. But Bakugo said, "I don't believe you." But then Izuku says, "You're right. It's all a lie. You think I'm gonna tell you the truth after all the torture and drama you put me through? Nah." As he then flicks Bakugo on the head and leaves a mark on it and says, "That's my only warning to you. The next time we fight or anything happens, you won't be able to survive." As Izuku actually shows some anger. Somewhere in an unknown, a mystery person reads a newspaper about All Might becoming a teacher. He possesses the question of what would happen if the symbol of peace got snuffed out by villains. And that's where I'm going to be leaving off the what if. This is Phantom Duos here, and I hope you guys enjoy the part 3 or part 4 of this what if. Well, see you later, guys.